Hey there, I'm Carrie, social worker and founder of PlayMotion Kids. Welcome to Wait, Am I Saving the World? This podcast is for people shaping childhood at home, in classrooms, and beyond. Around here, we're having real conversations about what it takes to raise the next generation of change makers. We talk child welfare, child development, parenting, education, and everything it takes to show up for kids without losing yourself or your sanity in the process. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, everybody. Carrie here. And today I am talking with Stephanie Affinito. Did I get that right, Stephanie?
Affinito, very close.
Affinito. Oh my goodness. And I practiced.
It's closer than many others, though.
Okay, good. She is a literacy teacher, educator, author, and the host of the KidLit Love podcast. Stephanie is someone who truly believes in the power of books to shape childhood. She has spent her entire career helping teachers and families, and her work blends books, notebooks, creativity, and connection really in an accessible and beautiful way. So today we are going to talk about how stories help kids make sense of their world, how to build strong reading identities at home, and some simple ways to make reading a natural part of everyday family life. I know you are going to love her. So welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Awesome. So why don't we just get right into it? And you tell me a little bit about yourself and how a lit life started.
Okay. Well, we could go all the way back to my childhood, right? I was the little girl who devoured books. Always had a book, always had a notebook. Reading and writing were always something that were just so central to who I was and what I did. And so I just schemed ways, that I could spend the rest of my life getting, paid to read and write with everybody. And that's basically what I get to do. So I went from being a classroom teacher to a literacy specialist who just taught kids how to read all day long to my current position, which in my real job is a literacy teacher educator at my local university. I've been there for 20 years, and my greatest joy is helping pass on my love of reading to all of the teachers who I work with so that they can pass it on to the students. I want everyone to understand that reading isn't just a hobby. Like, it is something that is good for our health. It is something that is meant for our souls. Like, it literally is something that can help our life be better. And I want everybody to know it, whether they are adults figuring it out and trying to carve out time to read, or if you're trying to do the same for the young children in your life, if you're looking for books. A Lit Life was born out of that idea that books are more than books. Like, they're little portals. They're portals of magic. They're portals of creativity. They're portals of growth. They're really portals for whatever you want them to be. And it's just my passion to make sure everybody knows just how powerful reading and the books that you choose in your reading practice can be for all of us, whether you are young, old, or in between.
Oh my goodness, your enthusiasm for reading is just contagious. Like, I can feel how excited you are.
Yeah.
So I imagine working with students over the years and working with the adults through the university who are training in this, you have really seen firsthand how powerful books and reading can be. So what do you think that books give children or adults that really nothing else can?
They give us the chance to be seen and heard in ways that sometimes we can't be seen and heard in our regular lives. For me, it goes back to when I was a teenager. I always loved books, but I didn't understand the power that books had until I was 13 and I got really sick. I had, some mysterious thing that no one could figure out for a long time. And I was out of school for a couple of years. I was in and out of hospitals, of doctors' offices, all the things, and really just kind of stuck to my bed for quite some time. And the only thing I could do was read and write because they are very quiet, activities that you can do in bed. And I realized, that when I read books, when I wrote in my notebook, I felt better. I could escape my current reality and just get lost in a story to help me feel better. I was learning from the characters on the page, like what do normal teenagers do that I might do when I'm actually better and give me hope for later on. My notebooks, I poured every emotion out that may have gotten, stuck in my body and made me sad or maybe upset. And I realized at that age, that books offer a chance to see us and hear us and help us feel ways that maybe don't happen in our real lives. Now, mine was a really drastic situation. Not many kids, thankfully, are going to go through something, mysterious like that, where books are really going to help them feel better. Um, but we all have something, right? We all have something that we deal with, whether it's a challenging family situation, whether it is someone being sick, whether it's a bully, whether it's just the normal trials and tribulations of growing up and figuring out how this life works. Books offer us a chance to figure it all out, in a very safe place on the page, to see how other kids act, to see where other kids live, to see how other families work, to see what other hobbies might look like. And they just give us the space to step into a different reality other than our own, which helps us then think about our own lives in different ways as well. So I feel like no matter who you are or where you are or what you want to do, there is a book for you that literally can help you feel seen and help you feel better, and then hopefully help you learn something new about the world as well.
Okay, so I am really curious about that since you bring that up. Do you have a specific type of book or even just some very like these are the books that help kids the most?
I have a couple of thoughts on that, actually.
Okay.
And, the books that are going to help kids the most are the books that they're going to read.
Ah,
Right? And the books
yes,
that the families read. So there is
that makes
no
sense.
magic book that is going to be the book that is going to, bring us whatever we want or be a so-called magic bullet. So whatever book a child will read or wants to read literally has the potential to do all of those things for that child. There's no criteria, so to speak. There's no most powerful book that could help a child the most, because really it depends on the interaction between the child and the book. That's where that magic happens, or the child, the caregiver, and the book if they are reading together. But that said, I would say that books that have strong characters that kids might relate to or learn from can help them really connect with the book. Books that have really relatable plot lines and stories that kids will be able to say, oh, yeah, that's me. I've done that. I know that. I've experienced that. So they feel that connection. And books that have themes that are appropriate for whatever age the child is that you're reading, whether it's learning about friendship or it's learning about how to be independent. It's learning about how to be a good student at school. That depends on the age of the student. But any book has that potential as long as the child's reading it with an open mind and an open heart and a willingness to jump into the story. Same with the family members. And you never really know what that book might be. And that's why it's really important to, at least for us parents, really have an understanding of children's literature and the amazing books that are out there that could do that for your child, and let your child lead the way in helping to choose those books as well. That's
Yes.
also key.
That is key. So when I am saying, "Oh, read this one because I loved it," might not be the same. Yeah.
And there's great merit. Books are about connection, and reading really is about community. It's reading together, it's talking about it together. And so when someone that you care about says, "I loved this book," you know, that really is a great thing to say and to connect on a reader to reader level. Saying, I love this book, and so you must read it is a different thing, right?
Right.
You want to allow as much choice and ownership in the books that they decide to consume.
That makes sense. So, if there's a parent who has a child that says, "I hate reading," or "I don't want to read," how do you start to open that door for them without pressuring them?
Mhm. You first have to remind yourself, so that you can remind your child that hopefully reading is a non pressured situation. And that if a child dislikes reading or is a reluctant reader, I think two things need to happen. One, you have to remind both of yourselves that books are patient and they will wait for us until we find the one that could be the one that unlocks what reading could be for that child. And number two, there are a lot of factors that go into building a reading identity that we could think about. It's choosing books that they would like, right? Having a book that they want to read. It's also thinking about the format of the book that might be best for each student or each child, whether it's reading a so called old fashioned book that actually opens up and holds in your hand versus an ebook versus listening to books. All of those count. And for different children with different preferences and different learning styles, one of those might be more beneficial than the other. So I would say it's a combination of things of not stressing out about it, not making it a huge deal, but helping them find the kind of reading life that would feel good to them. That said, I also hope that the family members around the child are doing that kind of modeling as well. I've lots of parents that will ask me, "What is the best way to get my child to like to read?" And I'll say, "For you to like it." Because if they see you liking it as this natural, wonderful part of your life, then chances are it will be easier for them to take that up too.
Yes, of course, that makes sense. So, that is exactly what I was about to ask you. What are some ways to help build that? So, is it just modeling, or are there some additional things that parents can do to help kind of build a reading ritual in their home?
Yeah, I developed a framework in my book, Leading Literate Lives, that I think speaks to this in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And basically, it says there's three things that we need to consider when we're trying to build a strong reading identity. You know, a child who not only knows how to read, but wants to read and enjoys reading. And those three things are our reading habits, our reading hearts, and our reading communities. And so if we're thinking about families trying to help their child build, uh, a better love of reading, first, we have to think about the kinds of reading opportunities there are in the day and the access they have to text they might want to read. So habits might be setting a certain family time once a week where everyone snuggles up on the couch with their chosen book and relaxes into reading. It might be that around the breakfast table or the dinner table, one of the questions posed is, what are you reading lately? What do you want to read lately? Another habit might be going to the library every so often, as much as a family can find time in our busy schedules, and make that a fun, festive kind of routine. Every family looks different, so there's no one reading habit that will work for everyone. And so it could be breakfast reading. It could be, bedtime reading with flashlights. It could be listening to a book on the car on the way to your sports practices. It can be anything that works for that family, but really looking at where you might build reading habits in for your family is that first step so that we get parents and kids actually reading so that we can go to the second thing to think about, which is what are we reading? And are we reading books that are really speaking to our hearts? Are we reading books that are forced? The teacher says we have to, the school says we have to, my parent says this book's better for me than this one. And if so, that's an opportunity to ask the child, what would you want to read about? Right? What book feels really good to you? What would happen if we let kids be in control of the choice? Of course, manage choice with parents there leading the way. But thinking about the kinds of books students are reading, and if it's something that feels good to them is the next step. And the third thing is the reading community that is built. Readers love books, but readers love sharing books with other readers, right? You can't wait to pass along a good book. We all sign up for Reese's Book Club or Oprah's Book of the Month or whatever it is, because reading builds community. And so making it a habit to invite your child into that community of readers, even if they're not sure they want to be there yet, is key. Showing them the book that you're reading, telling them about the book that you're listening to on your commute, um, asking them what books they might want to order from the book club, the Scholastic Book Club coming out, and getting out the marker and circling it. Things that show them, no matter what their current status is as a reader, there's always a place for them in the reading community that you're building, whether at home or at school. Those three things paired together really go a long way in helping students develop that love of reading.
Oh my goodness. You just unlocked a memory for me because the Scholastic Book Club
The red and white
nails it.
box.
Yes,
Yes.
I am reading every single bit of that. I am circling.
I have such wonderful memories of that Scholastic Book Club, and I still order them with my adult teachers learning to be teachers, and that Scholastic high never goes away.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, no, I'm excited just thinking about it. So, we talked about what they should do. Do you ever see something that adults often get wrong about encouraging reading at home? So maybe some things that they do, but you're like, that's not the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. The first is making reading feel like work, that you have to read and then you can go play.
Mm.
Or you have to do X, Y, or Z, and then you get to do that. The way we frame reading and the language we use around it can make reading feel like work or feel like school or feel hard. So it's not we have to read, but we get to read, or we get to read, and then I guess we can have recess. It's the way that we phrase it. So making sure that we're not making reading feel like required work, making sure that we're not putting too much stress on it. Like, you should want to read, you have to read. It's a school assignment. When we turn it into a must do or a should do, that takes the magic almost out of everything. So as much as possible, keeping it very invitational and welcoming, and knowing that if you keep at it in this way, it will come in time. It will come in time. The books will come in time, which leads me to the next kind of two things that parents often do, thinking they're helping, which is making them read a particular title, right? Because you loved it, I think my child will love it. Or
It's a classic. Yeah.
bestseller. Yeah, it's a classic. They should read it. And while that may be true, if you have someone who's just starting to get into reading and really wants to grow their love of reading, as much choice as possible is ideal. So even giving them a choice of 3 books to choose from that you would be okay with them reading is better than just handing one must read. And I think the last thing that very well-meaning people intend for, but that can often backfire, is requiring books at a certain level, right? Like, oh, that book's too easy for you. You get to read a different book. Or that book's too hard for you. You're not ready for that book yet. And those kinds of conversations can really hurt a child's reading identity, because as adults, right, I don't go into the library and say, I need the book that's only for 47-year-old women. Right? I read.
Never heard that. You're right.
Right. I read easier books when I want, some light, fluffy romance reading. But when I want to learn something, I might go to literary fiction or even a really dense nonfiction. So not limiting students' choices around their reading levels as much as possible. Certainly choosing books with your child that are appropriate in terms of the content, whatever that is for you. Um, but telling a child they can or cannot read something because of the level of difficulty around it can often have students internalize some negative thoughts about reading that we certainly don't mean for them because we want to set them up for the best experience ever. But that's fairly easy to happen when we start to put those kinds of parameters on it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You are calling me out big time. Because if I have not said multiple times, we're going to do our reading, and then we
Yeah.
get to play on the Xbox or
Yes.
whatever it is. Yes.
And it's so natural. It's
I'm
so
listening.
natural to
I'm
do.
listening
And that
and I'm
doesn't mean that
learning.
I've never done it either. I, of course, have done it too. But
Okay. I'm learning and I'm taking notes today, Stephanie. So you talk about pairing books and you gave a little bit of your story about journaling with
yes.
reading. Okay. So tell me why journaling with reading.
Oh, we need like a whole nother hour to talk about,
We'll do a part two.
yeah, journaling and notebooking. Um, so there's something magical about putting pen to paper. And yes, keyboards still work. But there's just something about that old school pen to paper that research shows us actually has an impact in our bodies. That when we read for a certain amount of time or we write for a certain amount of time, our eyes are moving left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. And we can get lulled into this kind of meditative state. And so our brains are really primed to think and to reflect because we are in that calmer state of being. And so when we are reading things, we often can make connections to ourselves, right? Things that we notice about our own lives that are similar to the characters, or things that we don't like that we're finding in books. And writing gives us the opportunity to take those thoughts that we may have had in our head about the reading and put them down on paper so that we can think about them. We can ponder them. I'm not talking about the kind of reading where we have kids answer comprehension questions, like who is the character, what was the setting. Too much of that kind of that kind of writing around a book can actually reverse kids' love of reading because that kind of writing where they're just proving that they've read the book to someone else can make reading feel like work. But writing or doodling or jotting down things that help them capture what they were thinking and feeling as they were reading the book, it deepens the reading experience. Now, there's a whole nother set of research that shows writing unrelated to our reading, just having kids write things down, things that are going on, things that bother them, things that they did that day. So much amazing research around how good it is for our health. The chemicals that course through our bodies, our blood pressure, our breathing rate, the tightness of our muscles. Even for adults, the level of inflammation in our bodies can be reduced by putting pen to paper. So as much as possible, I love to pair reading with writing because words on the page that we read, right, they kind of soak into us and hopefully make us feel good or help us feel better. But we can also put words out on the page and talk about things in a way that we often don't get a chance to do with the books we read in school. Because teachers have very specific things they must do in relation to the curriculum. So a reading life sitting at a classroom desk will likely look very different than the child who is snuggled up on the couch or the bed with a bunch of pillows reading for fun. And pairing that with just a little light writing can help children really make sense of what they're reading and how it might be able to help them.
Oh my goodness. So we are literally reading for our lives when you talk about
Um,
those health benefits. That's really amazing.
We are reading and writing for our lives. And in my adult podcasting world where I speak to adults on this podcast, I always say like reading and writing are the underdogs of the health and wellness space.
Yes. Yes.
Not as many people understand that just 6 minutes of reading will put your body into a rest and digest phase versus fight or flight. That reading for 30 minutes gives our parasympathetic nervous system the same effect as if we did 30 minutes on a yoga mat. Now, our muscles aren't the same, right? And our flexibility is not the same. And our core is certainly not the same. But the level of stress in our body reduces the same because we are reading in that more meditative state. And just one 15-minute writing session does all of those things as well. 3 writing sessions 3 days in a row starts to reduce the inflammation and cortisol in our body. It's just fascinating. And
I
so that's
am.
why I get so excited talking about reading with kids because yes, it's about having a good life. And yes, it's about being able to do the academic things we want them to do. But we're literally giving them tools to feel better and be better at the same time. And then hopefully adults are picking up my message too and they're feeling better as well.
I am amazed right now because I have never heard that. So I love this so much. And so speaking about adults, let's transition to that for a minute. If
Sure.
How do you suggest adults reconnect with reading for themselves? And I say reconnect, but it might be even build a love for reading at all as an adult.
Yeah.
So, especially for parents who are trying to model to their children because they want their children to read, but maybe they've never picked up reading as a habit. So, what are some suggestions about how to start incorporating that or help them connect with reading?
I think the very first thing that adults need, especially parents and caregivers, is the permission slip to allow yourself the time to, in quotes, just read, right? Because we're busy and many of us are just checking the boxes off every single day of all the things we have to do. And reading can feel frivolous. It can feel like a hobby. It can feel like something I do when my work is done, or for people who have more time than me and can just relax and read a book. And so that permission slip that reading is actually a form of self-care. It is actually good for your health and that you deserve to take that time every day or however often you want to read is key because any other of the suggestions, they won't work if adults won't allow themselves the permission to really sink in to that practice. But when they do, I would say the same recommendations for kids apply to adults. It's thinking about where you might build in a reading habit. Get up 10 minutes early, have 10 minutes of reading at bedtime, hide away in your office for 10 minutes on a lunch break. Where is one place that you could just start with 10 minutes? And I say 10 minutes because research shows it only needs 6 in order to start our bodies down. But as adults, we need to settle in and ignore the distractions. And so
Let's calm down. Yes.
by the time we let ourselves settle in, we need 10 minutes in order to get to that 6 minutes. So just asking yourself where you might find a 10-minute block to start dipping your toes into a reading practice is needed. And then just like kids, what would you want to read? Not what you think you should read, not what, your mom says you should read or your best friend says you should read in the book club, but what do you want to read? Is it graphic novels? Is it poetry, nonfiction, fiction? Is it romance? Is it whatever? Allow yourself to pick the book that really speaks to your heart because that's the book that you're going to want to come back to and it's going to feel fun instead of an obligation. Same thing as with kids. And with kids, if you can connect with a reading community somehow, whether that's texting your best friend about the books you're reading, joining a book club at your local library, or just listening to a book podcast so that you can feel connected virtually to a reading community, even if you never meet them in person. Those 3 things, your habits, your hearts, and your communities, if you allow yourself the time to indulge them, they team up in this little triple team kind of way to allow you to either build a reading habit for the first time, rebuild it, or expand it, depending on where you are in your own reading journey.
Oh my goodness. This is so good and so helpful. And so I love to read, but I will say I get distracted. And so I've learned because my notifications going off or somebody's at the
Mhm.
door. And so that is exactly what I started with is I'm going to read one chapter. I'm just right instead of trying to
Yes.
carve out a large time. But I am curious because you mentioned audiobooks earlier. Would you say that they are as effective as reading a paper book, especially for kids? So I know we're getting the storytelling across, but does it have the health benefits or are there any differences between the two?
Yeah. So, the research, when I talk about reading being good for your health for those various reasons, the research completed on that thus far is about the good old fashioned book in your hand, whether it's a book, an e reader, a magazine, whatever kind of text in your hand. Because the research relies on your eyes helping lull you into that meditative rest and digest phase. So, eyes moving left to right again and again and again and again is what starts to calm your body down. So, unfortunately, there is no research, so to speak, on the health benefits of listening to an audiobook because your eyes don't move in that left to right fashion. And usually, when people are listening to audiobooks, they're multitasking.
Yes.
They're folding the laundry, they're walking the dog, they're
Yeah.
they're doing other things that don't allow their bodies to settle in. So if you were listening to an audiobook and you were, at a comfy spot on the couch and your eyes were closed and you had no other distractions, you likely could lull your body there. But as of right now, the research is on that printed book because our eyes can move. That said, though, audiobooks are still reading. It still counts, so to speak, as reading, because reading is an experience. It's an interaction between the story and the reader, right? And what happens in the middle. And whether that's in a printed book, an ebook, or an audiobook, you are interacting with that story. Now, younger children, if we were to look at this, will audiobooks help them become a better reader? Absolutely yes, because it's teaching them how stories work. It's teaching them what readers sound like. It's teaching them to imagine the story in their mind. It's teaching them to comprehend. But they would also need the printed books in order to literally decode the words on the page. But listening to those audiobooks can help them break into the world of reading, especially if a child experiences reading as difficult. It's hard to show up every day to practice something that you don't feel that you're good at. And so showing them that, you really are good at this reading thing because listen to the story. You're picturing it in your mind, you're listening to it. We just need a bit more practice to crack the code on the page, and you got this. So I would say for young children, pairing it together is essential because they're still learning to figure out the words. But as an adult, if you just want to lean into audiobooks, it absolutely counts as reading. Just don't do your dishes and fold the laundry at the same time.
Okay. Look at you calling me out again because I am driving and listening to my audiobooks. But
Yeah.
yes, it goes on my list of books that I've read.
Yes. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with multitasking while you're doing it. But if you really want to lean into the health benefits of
Right.
it, you'll allow yourself to sit on the couch and do nothing. It comes back to that permission slip
Right.
for
It,
adults to let that be a thing.
yeah, that's true. Well, and driving in Houston traffic is we're not getting into a meditative state.
Yes.
I
Yes.
promise. Okay, so do you have anything that concerns you the most? What is your biggest concern about literacy and children right now?
My biggest concern about literacy in children is that it is harder and harder in today's age to balance all of the things that they want to do and have quick access to at their fingertips and have a really strong reading and writing life. So, screens, I would say, are the most obvious things that are competing for kids' attention versus books. Um, I don't see that as an a yes no. I see it as an and. Um, but with the world so very quickly fast paced, with adults who are struggling to maintain their reading lives, my fear is that they won't experience that true pleasure and joy of a strong reading life. Because when I grew my reading life, I didn't have the device. I didn't have the phone. I had a terrible, TV that didn't even get a whole lot of channels. So there
Right.
wasn't anything distracting me. So it's teaching kids how reading can still be a very viable, fun, enjoyable way to spend their time and learn and get information and, feel better in the process if we help them choose books in that particular way.
So, do you have anything that's giving you hope right now about literacy?
Oh. All of the above.
Yeah.
Everything that I've talked about. So I'm so lucky because I work in a position where I get to work with teachers or people who want to be teachers. And there is such joy and excitement at sharing their love of books with the next generation. There is so much hope in passing this love of reading along because of the people that I see in the field. I also am very excited because the landscape for books has never been this beautiful. There are books that are, brand new that we can get into kids' hands immediately. There are books with diverse stories that take place all over the world with all sorts of different characters and plots and themes. There is truly a book for everyone. And I feel like that gives me hope, knowing that there are still people like me who are going to just scream from the rooftops how important it is to read old-fashioned books, and that the books that are coming out are so good and they're so beautiful, and there's literally something for everyone. And I get excited knowing that my purpose is to help match those readers to the books that they need the most. That is the best high for me, is when I can pick a book that I know someone's going to come back and say, "How did you know that was the book I needed?" Or that's the book that's going to be the one that tips the domino into a child becoming a voracious reader. That's the love right there.
Oh my goodness, that's so good. Thank you, Stephanie. So, if you would tell everybody where they can connect with you, how do they find you?
Thank you. So the best place to find me is at alitlife.com, which is my website, and all of the links to everything I do is there. So if you want to follow me in the children's literature area and how to work with your child, there is a place to do that. Or if you're an adult and you want to learn more about how to make reading and writing a wellness practice, there is a place for that as well. But the one thing I would love to plug, because it is my passion project and it's free, I'm not plugging a product. I have a project called 365 book postcards. And I had these postcards made that look like a library card, like the old fashioned tucked in the back of the book library card. It's a 4x6 library card. And if you fill out just a little bit of information on a Google form that says a little bit about you, what you're looking for in the books that you love, I handwrite a book recommendation on that card that looks like a library card, and I pop it in the old fashioned snail mail. Like, it's a postcard with a stamp that brings
Yes,
me great joy. I'm in, I think, 7 different countries. I've sent postcards,
that's
and I just
amazing.
love pairing books with the readers that need them. And so if you're an adult, obviously I would love to recommend a book for you, but you can also help your child. If you're the adult signing the child up, I am happy to recommend a children's literature recommendation as well. And it's just great fun to get something that's not a bill in your
Yes.
mailbox.
Exactly. Those are the only things that come, Stephanie. I will take a
Yes.
book postcard for sure.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
well, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we talk soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who cares about showing up well for kids. And if you feel called to create real impact in your own community through movement, mindfulness, and whole child learning, you can find out more about becoming a certified PlayMotion Kids instructor at playmotionkids.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, don't forget to make a little time to play, and now get out there and go save the world.